You think you're losing because you're not smart enough, not talented enough, not lucky enough. But what if I told you that every single person who has ever dominated their field, crushed their competition, and built an empire didn't succeed because they were better than you? They succeeded because they understood something you don't. They understood that life is war, and while you've been playing checkers, thinking that being nice and working hard would be enough, they've been playing chess on a three-dimensional board. Right now, as you watch this video, someone with half your talent is taking the promotion you deserve. Someone with worse ideas is building the business you dreamed of. Someone less qualified is living the life you want. And it's not because the world is unfair. It's because they know the rules of a game you don't even realize you're playing. The uncomfortable truth: you've been disarmed in a world that rewards warriors. This is the 33 Strategies of War by Robert Greene, and it's not a book about military history. It's the manual for modern psychological warfare that will transform how you navigate every conflict, negotiation, and challenge in your life. Greene spent over a decade studying history's greatest strategic minds. From Napoleon to Malcolm X, from ancient Chinese generals to modern business titans, to extract the timeless principles that separate winners from casualties. Today, we're going to rewire your strategic thinking completely. We're going to take you from someone who reacts to circumstances to someone who controls them. From someone who hopes for the best to someone who engineers victory. In the next 90 minutes, we are not just going to read a book. We are going to deconstruct the very operating system running your life and install a new one. Let's begin the upgrade. We're about to journey through 33 strategies that will fundamentally change how you think about conflict and competition. In Chapter 1, we'll shatter the illusion of neutrality and learn why declaring war creates unstoppable momentum. In Chapter 2, we'll discover why fighting yesterday's battles guarantees tomorrow's defeats. Chapter 3 will teach you the counterbalance strategy that keeps you calm when everyone else is losing their minds. We'll explore how to create urgency that moves mountains, avoid the groupthink that destroys careers, and segment your forces for maximum impact. You'll learn to transform your struggles into crusades, pick battles that actually matter, and turn the tables when you're backed into a corner. We'll dive deep into intelligence gathering, lightning-fast execution, and the art of forcing your enemies to move first. You'll master the center of gravity principle, divide-and-conquer tactics, and the flanking maneuvers that catch opponents completely off guard. The journey continues with annihilation strategies, diplomatic warfare, and the crucial art of knowing when to exit. We'll explore misperception, the ordinary-extraordinary dynamic, and how to occupy the moral high ground while advancing your position. Finally, we'll uncover the most sophisticated strategies: alliance building, passive aggression, and the psychological warfare that wins battles before they even begin. Let's go on this journey, one strategy at a time. Chapter 1. Declare war on your enemies. The polarity strategy. Why are you struggling to make progress in your career, your relationships, your life? Here's the brutal truth most people will never tell you. You're trying to be everyone's friend in a world that rewards clear enemies. The polarity strategy reveals something counterintuitive about human psychology. When you take a strong position, when you declare what you stand for and what you stand against, you don't just attract allies, you create magnetic energy that pulls resources, attention, and opportunities toward you. Neutrality isn't diplomatic, it's invisible. Think about every successful brand, every influential leader, every movement that changed the world. They didn't succeed by trying to please everyone. Apple declared war on complexity. Tesla declared war on fossil fuels. Martin Luther King Jr. declared war on injustice. They created polarity, and polarity creates power. In your life right now, there's someone or something working against your interests. A competitor taking your clients. A colleague undermining your projects. Limiting belief sabotaging your confidence. Stop pretending it's not happening. Stop hoping it will resolve itself. Declare war. Here's your activation step. Identify your primary opposition right now. Write it down. What is the one force, person, or obstacle that, if removed or defeated, would accelerate your progress dramatically? Now, instead of avoiding this conflict, lean into it. Make it clear where you stand. This isn't about being aggressive. It's about being definitive. The moment you stop trying to please everyone, you start building the kind of focused energy that changes everything. Chapter 2. Do not fight the last war. The guerrilla war of the mind strategy. You're losing battles you should be winning because you're fighting with yesterday's weapons against tomorrow's challenges. Most people approach new problems with old solutions. They use networking strategies from the 1990s in a digital world. They apply industrial-age thinking to information-age problems. They fight today's wars with yesterday's tactics, and they wonder why they keep losing ground. The guerrilla war of the mind strategy teaches you to adapt faster than your competition can respond. While they're perfecting last year's approach, you're already 3 moves ahead, using methods they haven't even considered. Consider Netflix. A blockbuster fought to perfect the physical rental experience. Netflix recognized that the real war was about convenience and selection. While traditional retailers focused on improving in-store experiences, Amazon understood that the future was about eliminating the need for stores entirely. In your career, what assumptions are you making based on how things used to work? What strategies are you using because they worked before, not because they work now? If the fastest way to become irrelevant is to become an expert at something the world no longer values. Your activation step. Identify one area where you're fighting the last war. Maybe you're still networking the old way when relationships now form online. Maybe you're presenting ideas in formats that worked 5 years ago, but bore audiences today. Choose one outdated approach and consciously replace it with something adapted to current realities. The future belongs to those who can unlearn as fast as they learn. Chapter 3. Amidst the turmoil of events, do not lose your presence of mind. The counterbalance strategy. When everything around you is chaos, when pressure is mounting, when everyone else is panicking, there's one skill that separates leaders from followers: the ability to maintain your center. The counterbalance strategy isn't about suppressing emotions or pretending you're not affected by crisis. It's about developing an internal gyroscope that keeps you steady when external forces try to knock you off course. It's about becoming the calm in the storm that others naturally gravitate toward. Think about the 2008 financial crisis. While most investors panicked and sold everything, Warren Buffett stayed calm, analyzed the situation, and made some of his most profitable investments. While companies were cutting everything, Amazon invested heavily in infrastructure and emerged stronger than ever. The counterbalance strategy works on 3 levels. Physically, you control your breathing and posture to signal confidence to both yourself and others. Mentally, you zoom out to see the bigger picture instead of getting lost in immediate chaos. Emotionally, you acknowledge the stress without letting it drive your decisions. Here's the counterintuitive truth. Your ability to stay calm under pressure isn't just personally beneficial. It becomes a competitive advantage because most people make their worst decisions when they're stressed, rushed, or overwhelmed. Your activation step. The next time you feel pressure building, instead of immediately reacting, take 3 deep breaths and ask yourself one question. What would someone with complete confidence do in this situation? Then do that. Calmness isn't the absence of storms. It's the ability to navigate them. Chapter 4. Create a sense of urgency and desperation. The death ground strategy. Why do you procrastinate on the most important things? Why do you accept mediocrity when you know you're capable of more? Because you haven't created the psychological conditions that force excellence. The death ground strategy teaches you to deliberately put yourself in positions where failure isn't an option, where the only way out is through, where comfort becomes impossible and breakthrough becomes inevitable. Ancient generals understood this principle. When Sun Tzu's army had their backs to a river with no retreat possible, they fought with 10 times their normal intensity. When Court Urs burned his ships after landing in the New World, his men had no choice but to succeed in their mission. In modern life, death ground isn't about physical survival. It's about creating stakes that matter. It's about making public commitments you can't back down from. It's about investing time, money, or reputation in ways that make failure genuinely painful. Most people avoid death ground because it feels risky. But here's what they miss. Staying in your comfort zone is the riskiest strategy of all, because it guarantees slow decline. While you're playing it safe, the world is moving forward without you. Look at entrepreneurs who quit their jobs to start companies. Artists who move to expensive cities to pursue their craft. Anyone who has achieved something significant has, at some point, deliberately chosen a path where retreat wasn't an option. Your activation step. Identify one area where you've been playing it too safe, where you have too many escape routes, where you can afford to fail without real consequences. Now, deliberately close off some of those escape routes. Make a public commitment. Set a deadline. Invest something you can't afford to lose. Excellence isn't born from comfort. It's forged in the fire of necessity. Chapter 5. Avoid the snares of groupthink, the command and control strategy. The most dangerous enemy you face isn't external competition. It's the subtle pressure to think like everyone else in your environment, to accept consensus reality without question, to mistake popularity for truth. Groupthink is how intelligent people make stupid decisions collectively. It's how entire industries miss obvious trends. It's how careers stagnate in companies where everyone follows the same playbook. It's how you end up living someone else's version of success instead of your own. The command and control strategy teaches you to maintain intellectual independence while still working effectively with others. It's about leading your own thinking, even when you're not officially in charge. Consider how Steve Jobs approached product development at Apple. While the entire tech industry was focused on adding more features, Jobs consistently removed features. While everyone else was following market research, he was trusting his instinct about what people would want before they knew they wanted it. The most profitable insights come from thinking differently than your peer group. The biggest opportunities exist in the gaps between what everyone believes and what's actually true. But here's the challenge. Resisting groupthink requires confidence to stand alone, intellectual humility to question your own assumptions, and the social skill to disagree without becoming disagreeable. Your activation step. Identify one belief or assumption that everyone in your field accepts without question. Now, seriously consider the opposite position. What evidence supports the contrarian view? What opportunities might exist if the conventional wisdom is wrong? The crowd is usually wrong about the things that matter most. Chapter 6. Segment your forces. The controlled chaos. Strategy. You're trying to do too much at once, and it's making you weak everywhere instead of strong somewhere. The controlled chaos strategy teaches you to divide your resources and attention strategically, creating multiple fronts of attack while maintaining coordination between them. It's about being simultaneously focused and flexible. Think about how Amazon operates. They're not just an e-commerce company. They're also a cloud computing provider, a content creator, a logistics company, and a technology innovator. But each division operates with clear objectives while supporting the overall mission. In your personal life, segmentation means having different strategies for different areas. Your approach to building professional relationships should be different from your approach to developing expertise. Your method for generating ideas should be different from your method for executing them. Most people make one of two mistakes. They either scatter their energy across too many unrelated activities, or they put all their resources into one approach and hope it works. The controlled chaos avoids both traps. The key is maintaining what military strategists call unity of command, even while operating on multiple fronts. Each segment of your effort should have clear objectives, but all objectives should serve a larger strategy. Your activation step. Map out the 3 most important areas of your life right now. For each area, define one specific objective and one primary strategy for achieving it. Then, identify how progress in each area can support progress in the others. Power comes not from doing one thing perfectly, but from orchestrating multiple efforts toward a unified goal. Chapter 7. Transform your war into a crusade. Morale strategies. Why do some people seem to have unlimited energy for their goals, while you struggle to maintain motivation? They've learned the secret of transforming personal ambition into moral mission. When you're fighting only for yourself, you have limited fuel. When you're fighting for something larger than yourself, you tap into an energy source that doesn't deplete. This is the crusade mindset, and it's the difference between grinding through obstacles and charging through them. Look at any successful movement or company that has sustained excellence over time. They didn't just have good products or smart strategies. They had a mission that attracted people who wanted to be part of something meaningful. The crusade strategy works on 2 levels. Internally, it gives you access to reserves of energy and persistence you didn't know you had. Externally, it attracts allies, resources, and opportunities because people want to support causes that resonate with their values. But here's the crucial distinction. Authentic crusades solve real problems for real people. Not about ego or self-aggrandizement. They're about contribution, about leaving things better than you found them. Maybe you're building a business that solves a problem you've personally experienced. Maybe you're developing skills that will help you better serve your family. Maybe you're working toward financial freedom so you can contribute to causes you care about. Your activation step. Reframe your current primary goal as a mission that serves others. How does achieving your objective create value for people beyond yourself? What larger purpose does your success serve? Write this mission statement and refer to it when motivation wavers. Personal ambition is fuel for a short race. Moral mission is fuel for a lifetime. Chapter 8. Pick your battles carefully. The perfect economy strategy. You're exhausting yourself fighting battles that don't matter while ignoring the ones that could change everything. The perfect economy strategy teaches you to evaluate every potential conflict through the lens of strategic return on investment. Not every battle is worth fighting. Not every hill is worth dying on. Not every argument is worth having. Warren Buffett demonstrates this principle perfectly in investing. He passes on hundreds of opportunities to wait for the few that meet his criteria. He'd rather be patient and selective than active and scattered. In your career, this means saying no to projects that don't advance your core objectives, even when they seem exciting or profitable in the short term. In relationships, it means choosing which issues are worth addressing and which are better left alone. In personal development, it means focusing deeply on a few key skills rather than dabbling in many. The economy principle has 3 components: energy, time, and opportunity cost. Every yes to one thing is a no to everything else you could be doing with those resources. Most people fight battles based on emotion rather than strategy. Someone challenges them, so they respond. Someone offers them an opportunity, so they say yes. Someone criticizes them, so they defend themselves. This reactive approach guarantees you'll waste energy on conflicts that don't matter. Your activation step. List the 3 conflicts or challenges currently consuming your mental energy. For each one, ask, if I win this battle completely, how much will it actually improve my life? If the answer isn't substantial, consider withdrawing your energy and redirecting it toward battles that matter more. The master strategist wins wars by refusing to fight the wrong battles. Chapter 9. Turn the tables. The counterattack strategy. When you're under pressure, when someone is pushing you, when circumstances seem to be working against you, there's a moment of maximum opportunity that most people miss. The moment to turn defense into offense. The counterattack strategy teaches you to use your opponent's aggression against them, to transform their strength into your advantage, to flip the script when everyone expects you to retreat. Think about how Netflix responded when Blockbuster finally launched their own mail-order service. Instead of competing on the same terms, Netflix pivoted to streaming and made physical rentals obsolete. They used Blockbuster's aggressive response as an opportunity to change the entire game. In personal situations, counterattack isn't about escalation or revenge. It's about strategic redirection. When someone criticizes your work, you use it as an opportunity to demonstrate your ability to receive feedback gracefully. When a competitor tries to undercut your prices, you use it as an opportunity to emphasize the superior value you provide. The key to effective counterattack is timing and proportion. You wait for the right moment when your opponent is overextended, when their aggression has made them vulnerable, when your response will have maximum impact. Your activation step. Identify a current situation where you feel defensive or pressured. Instead of just protecting yourself, ask, how could I use this pressure as an opportunity to strengthen my position? What aggressive move could you make that would completely change the dynamic? The best defense isn't a strong wall, it's a devastating counteroffensive. Chapter 10. Create a threatening presence. Deterrent strategies. Most of your battles are won or lost before they even begin, based on how others perceive your willingness and ability to fight back. The deterrent strategy teaches you to project strength so effectively that conflicts resolve themselves without direct confrontation. It's about building a reputation that precedes you, creating the perception that challenging you would be more costly than accommodating you. This isn't about intimidation or bullying. It's about establishing clear boundaries and demonstrating consistent follow-through. It's about making it obvious that you respect yourself enough to defend your interests. Consider how certain CEOs handle negotiations. They're not necessarily the loudest or most aggressive people in the room, but everyone knows they have alternatives. They're prepared to walk away. and they've successfully navigated similar situations before. Their presence alone changes the entire dynamic. In your professional life, deterrence might mean having a strong portfolio that gives you leverage in salary negotiations. In personal relationships, it might mean being known as someone who addresses issues directly rather than letting them fester. The paradox of deterrence is that the stronger your position appears, the less likely you are to need to use it. When people believe you can and will defend yourself effectively, they're much more likely to treat you with respect from the beginning. Your activation step. Identify one area where you're not getting the respect or treatment you deserve. What would need to change about how you present yourself or respond to challenges to make it clear that taking advantage of you would be more trouble than it's worth? Strength that's clearly visible rarely needs to be used. Chapter 11. Trade space for time. The non-engagement strategy. Sometimes the most powerful move is not to move at all, to let your opponents exhaust themselves, while you preserve your energy for the battles that actually matter. The non-engagement strategy teaches you when to avoid conflict entirely, when to retreat strategically, when to let others make the first move so you can respond with complete information about their intentions and capabilities. This runs counter to our cultural obsession with constant action and immediate response. We're taught that engagement shows strength and withdrawal shows weakness. But strategic withdrawal can be the most powerful move available. Muhammad Ali demonstrated this perfectly in his fights. He would rope-a-dope aggressive opponents, letting them exhaust themselves throwing punches, while he conserved energy and waited for the perfect moment to counter. In business negotiations, non-engagement might mean not responding to the first offer, allowing the other party to reveal more about their position and priorities. In career development, it might mean not jumping at the first promotion opportunity. If a better one is likely to emerge, the key distinction is between strategic non-engagement and passive avoidance. Strategic non-engagement is active choice based on superior positioning. Passive avoidance is fear-based inaction that gives control to others. Your activation step. Identify a situation where you feel pressured to respond or act immediately. Ask yourself, what would I learn about the other party's intentions if I waited? How would my position improve if I let them make the next move? Sometimes the best response is no response. In a world obsessed with speed, patience becomes a superpower. Chapter 12. Lose battles but win the war. Grand strategy. You're so focused on winning today's argument that you're losing tomorrow's relationship. You're so concerned with this quarter's results that you're undermining next year's opportunities. Grand strategy teaches you to think in longer time horizons, to accept short-term losses in service of long-term victories, to sacrifice battles that don't matter to win the wars that do. Amazon lost money for years while building infrastructure and market share. Jeff Bezos was willing to disappoint Wall Street quarterly to build something that would dominate for decades. In your career, grand strategy might mean taking a lower-paying position at a better company, accepting criticism now to build credibility for later, or investing time in learning skills that won't pay off immediately but will be crucial in the future. The challenge with grand strategy is that it requires delayed gratification in a culture that rewards immediate results. It requires confidence in your long-term vision when others are judging you on short-term performance. But here's what most people miss. While they're optimizing for today, you're building advantages that compound over time. While they're fighting for immediate wins, you're positioning yourself for ultimate victory. Your activation step. Identify one area where you've been prioritizing short-term wins over long-term positioning. What battle could you afford to lose today if it helped you win the war tomorrow? What immediate sacrifice would create lasting advantage? The master strategist plays a different game entirely, one measured in years rather than moments. Chapter 13. Know your enemy. The intelligence strategy. You're making decisions with incomplete information, and it's costing you opportunities while handing advantages to your competition. The intelligence strategy teaches you to gather, analyze, and act on information about the people and forces that affect your success. It's about understanding motivations, patterns, strengths, and weaknesses before you engage. This isn't about spying or manipulation. It's about doing your homework. It's about understanding the landscape before you make your move. Great investors spend more time researching companies than actually trading. Great negotiators spend more time understanding the other party's position than preparing their own arguments. Great leaders spend more time listening than talking. In your career, intelligence gathering might mean researching company culture before job interviews, understanding your boss's communication style and priorities, or knowing your industry's trends and key players. Most people gather intelligence randomly and act on assumptions. They make decisions based on how they would think or feel rather than understanding how others actually think and feel. Your activation step. Choose one important relationship or situation in your life where you could use better intelligence. What don't you know about the other party's motivations, constraints, or decision-making process? How could you ethically gather this information? What questions could you ask? What patterns could you observe? Information is power, but only if you systematically collect and strategically apply it. Chapter 14. Overwhelm resistance with speed and suddenness. The Blitzkrieg strategy. While you're preparing the perfect plan, someone else is executing a good plan fast enough to make it perfect through iteration. The Blitzkrieg strategy teaches you to strike with such speed and intensity that resistance collapses before it can organize effectively. It's about moving faster than your competition can respond, faster than doubts can accumulate, faster than obstacles can solidify. This doesn't mean being reckless or unprepared. It means having the confidence to act on sufficient information rather than waiting for perfect information that never comes. Consider how successful startups operate. They don't wait until their product is perfect. They launch with a minimum viable product and improve it based on real market feedback. While their competitors are still conducting market research, they're already serving customers and learning from actual behavior. In personal development, Blitzkrieg might mean committing to a major change and implementing it immediately rather than gradually. When you decide to transform your health, your relationships, or your career, overwhelming action in the beginning creates momentum that carries you through the inevitable obstacles. The key is concentration of force. Instead of spreading your energy across multiple initiatives over months, you focus intensively on one breakthrough for weeks. Your activation step. Identify one change you've been contemplating, but haven't started because you're waiting for the right time, or more preparation. What would happen if you began today with overwhelming intensity? What could you accomplish in the next 2 weeks if you focused on nothing else? Speed is a strategy, and in a world of procrastinators, it's an unfair advantage. Chapter 15. Control the dynamic. Forcing strategies. You're letting other people set the pace, choose the terms, and determine the timing of important interactions. You're reacting instead of creating, responding instead of initiating. Forcing strategies teach you to seize control of the initiative, to make others respond to your moves rather than constantly responding to theirs. It's about becoming the chess player rather than the chess piece. When you control the dynamic, you choose when conversations happen, what topics get discussed, and how decisions get made. You set deadlines that work for you. You frame issues in ways that support your objectives. This isn't about being domineering or manipulative. It's about taking responsibility for creating the conditions that serve your goals, instead of hoping circumstances will align naturally. Great salespeople don't wait for customers to call them. They create systematic processes for generating interest. Great leaders don't wait for problems to escalate. They address issues before they become crises. Your activation step. Identify one important area of your life where you've been too passive, where you've been waiting for others to make the first move. How could you take the initiative? What conversation could you start? What opportunity could you create? What deadline could you set? The person who controls the timing controls the outcome. Chapter 16. Hit them where it hurts. The center of gravity strategy. You're attacking symptoms instead of causes, fighting branches instead of roots, targeting what's visible instead of what's vital. The center of gravity strategy teaches you to identify and focus on the critical point that, if disrupted, causes everything else to collapse. It's about finding the leverage points that create maximum impact with minimum effort. In business, the center of gravity might be a company's reputation, their key talent, or their primary revenue source. In personal challenges, it might be a limiting belief that underlies multiple problems, or a keystone habit that affects everything else. Most people spread their efforts across multiple fronts because it feels like they're working harder. But strategic thinking is about working smarter, finding the one thing that, if changed, changes everything else. Consider how Uber disrupted the taxi industry. They didn't try to build better taxis or negotiate with regulatory bodies. They identified that the center of gravity was convenience and user experience, and they focused entirely on that. Your activation step. Think about your current biggest challenge or goal. What is the one factor that, if addressed, would solve multiple problems or accelerate multiple outcomes? What is the root cause rather than the surface symptom? Focus there first. The master strategist, wins decisively by striking precisely. Chapter 31. Destroy from within. The inner front strategy. The most devastating attacks come from trusted insiders who understand the system's vulnerabilities intimately. This strategy teaches you to identify and address internal threats to your success, the limiting beliefs, self-sabotaging behaviors, and conflicting motivations that undermine your efforts from within. But it also teaches you to recognize when organizations, relationships, or systems are being destroyed by internal contradictions, and how to position yourself advantageously when those contradictions inevitably surface. Look at how many successful companies have been destroyed, not by external competition, but by internal politics, cultural decay, or leadership that lost touch with their core mission. Kodak invented digital photography, but couldn't cannibalize their film business. Blockbuster had multiple opportunities to pivot to streaming, but were paralyzed by internal resistance to change. In your personal life, the inner front strategy means identifying the ways you sabotage your own success. Maybe you procrastinate on important projects because deep down you're afraid of success. Maybe you avoid networking because you believe asking for help makes you weak. Maybe you undercharge for your services because you don't believe you deserve premium pricing. Your activation step. Identify the biggest gap between what you say you want and what your actions actually create. What belief, fear, or habit is operating from within to undermine your stated objectives? Address the internal enemy before fighting external battles. The fortress that cannot be conquered from without can often be destroyed from within. Chapter 32. Dominate while seeming to submit. The passive aggression strategy. The most sophisticated form of power is influence that doesn't look like influence, control that doesn't feel like control, leadership that doesn't announce itself. This strategy teaches you to achieve your objectives by appearing to defer to others while actually guiding their decisions. It's about winning by letting others think they're winning, about getting what you want by helping others get what they want. Master negotiators use this constantly. They ask questions that lead others to the conclusions they want them to reach. They present options that make their preferred choice seem like the obvious decision. They solve problems in ways that happen to align with their objectives. This isn't manipulation if it creates genuine value for everyone involved. It's sophisticated leadership that works with human psychology rather than against it. Consider how great teachers operate. They don't force information into students' heads. They create conditions where students discover insights for themselves. The students feel empowered and educated, while the teacher achieves their objective of transferring knowledge. Your activation step. Think about a situation where you want someone to change their behavior or make a different decision, instead of trying to convince them directly. How could you create conditions where they would naturally reach the conclusion you want them to reach? What questions could you ask? What options could you present? The highest form of victory is winning without fighting, leading without commanding, influencing without appearing to influence. Chapter 33. Sow uncertainty and panic through acts of terror. The chain reaction strategy. This final strategy is about understanding how small, precise actions can create disproportionate psychological effects that cascade through entire systems. In the context of personal and professional strategy, this isn't about causing harm or fear. It's about understanding how strategic unpredictability can keep competitors off balance. How bold moves can create market uncertainty that works to your advantage, and how breaking patterns can force others to react to your agenda rather than pursuing their own. When Netflix announced they were splitting their DVD and streaming services into separate companies, it created massive uncertainty in the market. Competitors didn't know how to respond because they couldn't predict Netflix's next move. While everyone else was paralyzed by uncertainty, Netflix was executing a clear vision. In your career, strategic unpredictability might mean taking on projects that seem unrelated, but build toward a larger objective that others can't see. It might mean developing skills that appear irrelevant to your current role, position you for opportunities that others won't recognize until it's too late. The key is that your actions should appear random to others, while following a clear internal logic that serves your strategy. You want competitors to waste energy trying to predict and counter moves they don't understand. Your activation step. Identify one area where you've become too predictable, where others can anticipate your responses and plan accordingly. How could you introduce strategic unpredictability that forces others to react to you rather than pursue their own agenda? The master strategist appears chaotic to enemies while maintaining perfect clarity internally. We've traveled through 33 strategies that have been tested in the crucible of history, from ancient battlefields to modern boardrooms, from military campaigns to personal transformations. But here's what matters most. You are not the same person who started this journey 90 minutes ago. You began watching this video thinking that success was about working harder, being smarter, or getting luckier. Now you understand that success is about thinking strategically, acting deliberately, and positioning yourself advantageously in every situation you encounter. You started believing that conflict was something to avoid, that competition was unfair, that politics were beneath you. Now you recognize that life is inherently competitive, that conflict is inevitable, and that the only choice is whether you'll engage strategically or remain a victim of other strategies. The uncomfortable truth we discussed at the beginning is still true. While you were playing checkers, others were playing chess. But now you know the rules of chess. Now you have the strategic framework that separates winners from casualties. Now you have the 33 strategies that can transform any situation from something that happens to you into something you control. But knowledge without application is just entertainment. Information without implementation is just intellectual decoration. You haven't truly learned these strategies until you've tested them in the real world, until they've become instinctive responses rather than conscious techniques. The person you were an hour and a half ago was reactive, hoping for the best, playing defense against circumstances they couldn't control. The person you can become starting today is proactive, engineering outcomes, playing offense against challenges they can defeat. This is your moment of choice. You can close this video and return to your old patterns, hoping that somehow things will improve without changing how you think and act. Or you can recognize that you now possess something most people will never have: a complete strategic framework for navigating conflict, competition, and challenge. You can continue being someone who complains about unfairness, who wonders why others succeed while you struggle, who believes that good people finish last. Or you can become someone who understands the rules of the game, who plays those rules better than anyone else, who wins consistently because they think strategically about every move. The choice is yours, but the window is closing. Every day you delay implementing these strategies is another day your competition gets further ahead. Every week you spend hoping for change instead of creating change is another week you remain stuck in patterns that don't serve you. Start with one strategy. Pick the one that resonated most strongly with your current situation. Apply it immediately. Not perfectly, but immediately. And add another strategy, then another. Build your strategic thinking muscle through use, not theory. Remember, you don't need to master all 33 strategies at once. You need to master one strategy completely, then add the next one. You don't need to become a strategic genius overnight. You need to become slightly more strategic today than you were yesterday. The world needs people who think strategically, who solve problems elegantly, who create value through superior positioning rather than superior force. The world needs leaders who can navigate complexity, who can build alliances, who can turn obstacles into opportunities. You now have the tools to become that person. The only question remaining is, will you use them? If this journey through strategic thinking has created value for you, if these 33 strategies have opened your mind to new possibilities, I'd appreciate it if you'd like this video and share it with someone who needs to hear this message. Strategy is more powerful when it's shared with allies who understand its value. Subscribe to this channel if you want more content that transforms information into implementation, that takes the wisdom of history's greatest strategic minds and makes it applicable to your modern challenges. Leave a comment telling me which strategy resonated most strongly with you and how you plan to implement it. Your insight might be exactly what another viewer needs to hear to take action on their own strategic transformation. The war for your life's direction has already begun. The only question is whether you'll fight it strategically or surrender by default. Choose strategy, choose victory. Choose the life that's waiting for you on the other side of strategic thinking. The transformation starts now.